Hi, this is Andrew Cook.
And this is Michelle Panek.
Welcome to the Affordable Therapy Showcase.
Alright, so let's get our show back on the road, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody. We're getting close to starting here soon.
Ready to start our second half of lots more exciting and entertaining speakers. I know you don't usually think of exciting and entertaining along with therapy, but that's part of what the Affordable Therapy Showcase is about. So we hope that you're being entertained and happy.
Yes, and it is really exciting. We've come a long way so far, and we have a little bit ways to go. And I already hear a lot of conversations and a lot of wheels turning that sound really exciting and refreshing. So let's pick up that momentum and keep going, and we'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. So, come on in. It is my pleasure to introduce Gary Howard, who is a dear friend and colleague. Gary Howard is a professional counselor, wilderness therapist, group facilitator, and 3-time business founder and CEO. He specializes in men's issues, trauma, relationships, addiction, and life transitions. He lives in Lafayette, Colorado with his partner and their Aussie lab puppy named Anu. When he is not helping others or spending quality time with his family and puppy, he is probably out there fishing or riding his motorcycle. Please welcome Gary Howard.
Thanks, Andrew. By a show of hands, who here has a man or man in their lives? Talk about friends, family, co-workers. Yeah, okay, everybody knows some man. And how many of these men would you say have problems? Not all of them. Oh, the big problems, maybe? And of these men with problems, how many are, would you say, having some trouble getting through one of these problems, feeling stuck, or somehow handling it ineffectively? There's a few. Yeah, well, this is what I want to talk about tonight. First off, I want to acknowledge that I'm using the term man, but I don't want to be coming across as though I support the status quo, the gender binary. My opinion is if you say you're a man, you're a man. A lot of the population calls themselves men. That's the group I'm referring to tonight. As Andrew said, I work primarily with men. The name of my practice is Wild Ways Integration. And specifically, I work with men who are brave enough to admit that they've got problems. Not all men really have that ability at all times. Why is that, you think? Why is it so hard for men to admit that they need help? Social conditioning. I would say, my opinion is that most men have power issues. And what I mean by that is that men have trouble feeling their power and channeling it effectively. That's what I help men with. I help men feel their power, grow their power, and channel it effectively. If they don't do that, then what often tends to happen is they try to solve their problems with aggression or passivity, avoidance, or indulgence. I think we can all recognize that men are often taught that to be powerful, they're supposed to be avoidant and tough. We're not supposed to be what I call relationshipy. Relationshipy is weak for a lot of men. I don't want to come across as being relationshipy. The problem is that we have to be relationshipy in order to get through a lot of what I'm talking about tonight. What is relationshipy? Relationshipy is an adjective I use to describe pro-relationship behaviors. That means healthy boundaries. That means expressing your needs without being aggressive. It means apologizing, forgiving. It means mutually beneficial, emotionally attuned, active listening. It means being present for others while not sacrificing our own needs. Our culture is slowly encouraging men to become more relationshipy, not just with their partners, but also with themselves, with the land, and with people in general. But many men aren't sure how to soften without losing their healthy masculine edge. We need healthy masculinity to get shit done. Without that masculine edge, we don't get shit done, especially the shit that matters. This is what I help men with. I help men find, keep, and grow their healthy masculine edge while learning how to be more relationshipy. I help men address conflicts at home and work in ways they didn't see possible because all they've known how to do is say, fuck you, I'm out the door. Fuck you, I'm done with this. Fuck you. So I help men stay in the fire, learn how to approach the conflict instead of run away from the conflict in ways they didn't think that were possible. All of this with a surprisingly casual approach. I don't push men into their emotions. I let men talk about their problems. And what they always end up finding is that it's actually not that big of a deal to sit with a counselor and talk about stuff that really matters to them. So one of the ways that I help men, and the reason I'm here tonight at the Affordable Therapy Showcase, is that I run a 8-week group for men. It's about goal setting. It's very affordable, and it's designed to help any man who feels stuck with a problem and motivated to get to the bottom of it once and for all. Their problems could be anything. Could be career, relationships, finances, health, whatever it may be. We use SMART goals. Anybody know what a SMART goal is? Right? It's a type of format of goal setting that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely. The guys get together, we share our problems, we set the SMART goals every week, we check in. And the group works for 4 reasons. 1, it shows men they aren't the only men. They aren't the only men with tough to solve problems. It gives an outlet for men's inherent problem-solving obsession. It's emotionally sensitive and inclusive, but not emotionally centered and focused, which can intimidate men. And it teaches 2 effective methods to solving problems: social support and SMART goals. There's information over on the table. Are there any questions?
You work with men who have like severe disabilities like PTSD and stuff and problems with working.
Yeah, I do. Oh, the question was, do I work with men with PTSD and trouble working? And the answer is yes. I do trauma healing as in addition to more like coaching type stuff. And so I have the ability and the skills to work with a guy in a much more sensitive and spacious way, a very attuned way, so that we can go into some of the traumas and heal them from the roots bit by bit by building up a ground of safety as we touch into some of the higher intensity memories, emotions. And that's all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Zoe Lewis. Zoe is a fully licensed trauma-trained therapist with a background in wilderness therapy. Her own transformative experiences in the wilderness are the basis for her interest in outdoor therapy. She has worked with survivors of sexual trauma, combat veterans, inmates, and women experiencing perinatal mood disorders, including postpartum depression. Her approach is primarily somatic and mindfulness-based, incorporating CBT and DBT as needed. She is certified in tension and trauma-releasing exercises, and she also treats anxiety and depression. She works with individuals, couples, and groups. Please welcome Zoe.
Thank you. So again, my name is Zoe Lewis. Kind of terrified of public speaking, so I'm going to try to not talk a million miles an hour. So I'm the owner of Soul Talk Therapy, and that's spelled S-O-L-E, not the other kind of soul. And what I do is I do walking therapy with clients around the Boulder area and around Nederland and general mountain region. And the reason I do what I do is because I believe that two of the most important things we can do for our mental health and well-being are movement and be outside, spend as much time outside as possible. And we all know this. Like I'm not saying anything you don't already know. We know exercise is good for us. We know being outside is good for us, but it's really hard for I would say almost all adults to do these things because maybe we have kids, we're taking care of aging parents, we have full-time jobs. Can you hear me? Am I loud enough? And so it's really hard to just basically take care of ourselves in this way. And then we make the decision, I'm going to go see a therapist. So then we go sit down with a therapist, and then we're sitting down inside an office for another hour. And I believe that mental health and physical health shouldn't be mutually exclusive. I believe we can do both at the same time and actually get more benefit. So we know that sitting down, most Americans spend most of our lives sitting down, the vast majority of our lives. So physically, this wreaks havoc, does all sorts of things, including shortens our hip flexors, tightens our hamstrings and our calves, hurts our back and our neck, so we're all crippled. Most importantly, I think it wreaks havoc on our cardiovascular system and has this really profound deadening effect on our spirit. So if you spend all day sitting down at work and then at the end of the day, I don't know if you're like me, but I just feel super cranky at the end of the day, sitting down inside, and you just have no energy, and you're just like, you just feel like crap. So benefits of exercise and what I do, the point of what I do is not like a workout. You're not going to get a workout. You set the pace. It's a relaxed pace, and I follow your lead. But exercise is a side benefit of what I do. So benefits of exercise can include, there's no guarantee. I don't know what will happen for you specifically if you choose this, but benefits can include reduced anxiety, reduced depression, reduced symptoms of PTSD. Speak louder than you are. It's the note being written for me right now. I hope you can all hear me at home. Reduce symptoms of trauma. I just totally lost my train of thought. Benefits of being outside and exercise. Your nervous system can unwind, and so you may become less reactive. So if you like drop a gallon of milk on the floor, you're less likely to be like, God damn! Like, oh, okay, all right, I can clean this up. So your brain plasticity can also increase, which makes it easier to learn things, which is helpful when you're in therapy and you're gaining all these new insights. You're more able to learn them. So you actually use a different part of your brain when you're walking and talking than if you're just sitting down and talking. Yeah, there's a million benefits, and I'm too nervous and I can't read right now because I'm too nervous, but there's a million benefits of walking and talking. Improved energy, improved sleep, improved self-esteem, greater overall sense of well-being, just more overall feeling of relaxed openness and being alive. My expertise is mainly in trauma, anxiety, PTSD, depression, postpartum depression, but I worked with a wide range of issues. I work with adults. I do work with couples as well, but I work with couples mostly sitting down. If people are not interested in doing walk and talk, I'm not like religious about doing that. We must do that. I also meet with people in their homes. If people have mobility issues or sometimes people just don't want to walk and talk. Some people prefer to do that, but some people feel more comfortable surrounded by four walls where they just can feel more safe. And sometimes I prefer to do that as well if somebody's working through intense trauma. I prefer to meet in the person's home, at least for several of those sessions. So I come to people's homes. So if you feel we're a good fit, let me know. I don't actually have any marketing materials in the back. My business cards are in the mail, which isn't very helpful for tonight. But I do exist, just not on that table. So thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. What do you do when it's snowing or raining? What do you do about clients who maybe want to be outdoors, but the weather just maybe isn't permitting?
So the question is, what do I do if somebody maybe wants to be outdoors, but the weather's not permitting, it's snowing or raining? I go to people's homes. We do therapy in that person's home. If there's a private place, and that's part of, I do a little phone screen beforehand and make sure if we're going to be meeting in your home, do you have a private place? It's not great if there's like a million people running around and listen, who can hear what we're talking about. So I do a little phone screen, and sometimes people, yeah, I guess that answers the question. Sometimes depending on where we meet, there can be situations in which there's like a covered outdoor place we can meet so you don't get rained on. But it kind of depends on the weather and the day and the person. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce Joy Redstone. Joy Redstone is a licensed clinical social worker and addictions counselor. Joy received her master's degree in social work from Boston College and completed postdoctorate graduations. No?
Postgraduate certificates.
Thank you. Thank you. She completed postgraduate certificates in addiction counseling and clinical supervision. She is a writer and artist and contributes regularly to the Daily Camera. She served as the executive director of Bridge House for 7 years, and she is recognized for her excellence in service delivery. Joy also serves as a board president for the Grief Support Network and is co-chair of the Hope Coalition. Joy's background in systems theory inspires her to witness the individual's journey towards laughter, beauty, and integration. Please give a warm welcome for Joy Redstone.
Thank you so much. What I want to talk about today does relate to issues about grieving. I want to describe a little bit about suicide, the prevalence of suicide in our community, a personal experience that I had with that, and how I've now integrated that into my clinical work. And first, let me say that this is just such an endemic problem. 2017 is the most recent year for which we have statistics for Colorado. And in that year, there were 1,175 people who completed a suicide. You may notice that I'm saying completed rather than committed. There's some feeling in that particular community that the language committed refers back to a time when suicide was illegal. But at any rate, that amount of people is a huge amount of people, and it's actually more people than die each year in Colorado for things like homicide, car accidents, breast cancer, flu, accidental ODs, and diabetes. So it's the 7th leading cause of death in Colorado. And it's really up for our community right now. Unfortunately, spring is often what is called suicide season. And there's been a number of completed suicides in the local high schools in the last few weeks at Fairview and also at September High School. Colorado and this whole area is called the suicide belt, and there's some wondering about why that might be and some speculation about why that might be. Some of the thoughts are that we have a culture of rugged individualism. We have a lot of access to firearms, and the data is if there's a firearm in the home, there's a much greater chance of a completed suicide. There's a lack of access to affordable mental health care, which is why we're all here. There's a lot of geographic isolation in the more remote parts of the state. There's a big income disparity, a lot of seasonal workers, and a really, really high cost of living. There's a lack of intergenerational support. Many of us have moved here from other places. There's a partying culture as well. That does play in. And altitude actually decreases serotonin, and serotonin is linked to depression, and it increases dopamine, which is related to risk-taking. So that's all from a really interesting National Geographic article, actually. I want to touch very briefly on my personal experience, which was almost 5 years ago, in May 5 years ago. I married someone who got very physically ill shortly after we got married, and it created a lot of just tremendous physical pain, which was treated with opiates. And both the opiates and the pain and the illness took away many, many things that he loved. Simple things like being able to drive a car, read a book, or get out and see friends. So it was a time of a lot of darkness for him. This was obviously a very big and traumatic event in my life, but it is not an event that I judge. Especially as more distance has gone by, I think about what is it like to be in that kind of physical pain, and kind of who am I to judge that choice? Who am I to say that my value system should have been imposed on his? However, it was a big event, and true to form, as therapists often do, I decided I wanted to try to put this to clinical work. Well, let me just jump back for a second. First, I decided I should put some energy into trying to recover. Oh boy, I need to talk faster. So I went to therapy. I went to Al-Anon quite a bit. I have a huge and supportive community. I do rituals every year on the anniversary, which is May 8th, and I turn to all kinds of creative expression, which was for me was writing and art. And then I decided last summer that I wanted to try to run a support group for people who have experienced this. Why did I do that? I think there's a huge need in the community, and what I experienced is that people did not want to talk about this, or they wanted to tell me it was God's plan. And I didn't want to get arrested for punching people, so like when they said that, so I was like, I'm going to take that energy and put it into something else. It also honors him. It's something I do kind of in his memory, and it also honors my own story. This was a big experience, and it changed my life, and I want to be able to make it of use. But I have to take really good care of myself to do this group, really. And I'm fortunate, I'm really blessed to have a great intern as a co-facilitator, and we have a whole signaling system worked out where I'm like, dude, you better carry the ball for a second because, I'm trying to wipe off the tears or something. But I do turn towards the emotion rather than away. One of the things I've learned about grief is that it's completely nonlinear, and it can just hit you at any moment. And for me, I now have discovered that I don't feel any shame about that. I also examine my impulse to speak. I, of course, want to talk all the time, and I've shut myself up and just let the person tell the story. I don't immediately have to tell my story that might match with it very well. And I wait, and then I might just tell them that their story touched me. I take a break. I take lots of breaks, actually, and I took a break, for example, it was the week of his anniversary. We have a lot of humor. I might be at the heart of a lot of that, I think. And we have a ritual that includes a lot of hugging, a lot of deep bear hugs at the end of this group. I want to just share one last thing, which is from a friend of mine who lost her wife to suicide. And I think it speaks to the impact of this on people. And the saying was, if love could have saved you, you would have lived forever. And I want to leave you with that because, when someone does complete a suicide, the thinking is that there's usually 6 people in their immediate circle for whom it's deeply impactful. That was certainly true in this case. And I have found a strange club that I wouldn't have ever wanted to be part of, but I have found a strange club of people who share this experience. And this statement is one that we all, I think, feel very deeply. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Joy?
Yes. Oh, it's once a week. And that was another reason I started a group, because most of the groups are once a month. So it's once a week. Where does the group meet? And when, and all the details. Yes, thank you, Gary. Once a week at Naropa Community Counseling, Monday evenings at 5:30. It's an hour and a half. It's free. It is drop-in, which is kind of a big, bold step, but our thinking was we wanted it to be as barrier-free as possible. And there are so many things that are so overwhelming and hard. Like sometimes just getting your clothes on and taking a shower and driving a car can be really hard. So we just wanted to make it if they can get there, they can be there, and we'll figure it out. Anybody else? Okay.
What What a night.
Oh my goodness, what a night.
amazing people.
It
have
is.
been spoken this evening. That's it for our speakers, but Andrew, who is a co-founder of Affordable Therapy Showcase along with me and also co-host, is going to do a final little talk for this evening before we close up and then have a meet and greet with us here that are here physically in the room. So Andrew Koch is a caregiving educator and psychotherapist who brings a mindfulness-based transpersonal approach to family caregiver education and therapy. Andrew has been a caregiving professional for 8 years and a long-distance family caregiver for 3. He specializes in helping families thrive while they navigate neurocognitive and neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's or motor neuron disease. Andrew believes that if we bring our best self to the caregiving role, our amazing difference will shine brightly during the long, dark nights. In 2017, he founded Contemplative Caregiver, LLC. Please welcome Andrew.
Thank you so much for being here. I just want to start with gratitude. And I come with a strength-based approach. That's, I think, the very first foundation, first pillar of the work I do is finding strengths. And I think one of the best strengths that we can have is resting in gratitude and gratefulness. And I just want to express my gratitude and gratefulness for everyone showing up tonight, for not just the speakers, but for the attendees, for making a little bit of time for this very important work. And this very important work is another one of my strengths. It's talking, it's motivation, it's building energy, it's getting people excited and bringing people together. It's collaboration. Because what happens in the caregiving role is that people become isolated, depressed, and they know nowhere to turn. So, what does that mean? That means we have to create the foundations and the opportunities for caregivers to receive support, to get the support that they need. So, I offer online counseling. I offer in-home counseling. You know what? I will get on the floor with you if you are my client. And you know what? I've done that for individuals who have movement issues. For individuals who have dementia issues, you know what? I'll help you get dressed. Not your standard counseling, caregiving role, but what we do know is that in isolation, in depression, in disease, in neurodegeneration, that sense of loss and aloneness in there is so devastating and so overwhelming that it really takes a special caregiver to come in there and meet the person where they're at, whether that's on the floor or helping them with their medication. Beyond just supporting caregivers in their home or online or persons with a disease, I really believe that we can make a difference by going outdoors and doing a little wilderness therapy, getting outside and fishing. So I've worked to develop both dementia-friendly fishing, helping individuals with a diagnosis go fishing, and also trauma-friendly fishing, really taking into consideration individuals with the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, that's not it. There's more, right? There's always more. There's always more. Because I believe in this program that we're doing tonight, the Affordable Therapy Showcase. It was my vision and Michelle Panek's vision to offer this to the community, to create a space for therapists who believe in their gifts and believe in the power of therapy so they could have a platform to come out and speak. And for individuals who need low-income and affordable therapy, this is your opportunity to grow. Because I went through very serious depression, anxiety, suicidality, and post-traumatic stress. And you know what? It was the $10 therapist that helped me week after week after week that really saved me from that edge. That's the vision that I have to help others. That's the vision I want to give. Whew. That's that other part. Like Lena McCain, who spoke earlier, I too specialize in mindfulness-based transpersonal counseling. The mouthful, right? Whew. Just to say it's enough. Mindfulness is this beautiful, beautiful gift to be able to be curious, to remain open, to be with what is here and what is now. And the transpersonal element allows for all sorts of states of consciousness, whether that's someone who's confused and seems to be time traveling and has dementia, to the person who is in an altered state from a psychedelic or other hallucinogen. This is making room for spiritual narratives, for a narrative that allows an individual to have a diagnosis of schizophrenia and to be seen as a brilliant host, someone who is capable and who has gifts, someone who should be uplifted rather than diminished and suppressed with medication. So we have mindfulness and we have the transpersonal. Holding both of these together, it allows for a very open framework, a very open opportunity to connect with others. And I think from that place, going back to where we started, in gratitude, having gratitude and openness towards your client allows them to show up in a safe space. And once we have safety and rapport, we can really begin the work. And by leading with a compassionate heart and open ears, being willing and able to support others with our gifts, there can be no wrong. Lean into the strengths. Lean into your strengths. Thank you so much.
So that concludes our Affordable Therapy Showcase for this evening. I really need to learn how to say this. Affordable Therapy Showcase. We have to practice
We do.
before our next one, which we are going to start having these on a more regular basis. So we're hoping to have our next one in the next few months. Look forward to bringing you a whole slew of wonderful new speakers. We want to thank everyone who is here tonight in the room and also our online viewers tonight. Thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this really important work.
Thank you so much. Yay!